Being victimized by a circumstance in your life literally means that event, that circumstance, that person, that condition is actually causing you to feel emotionally and think in terms of memories equal to that circumstance. And that circumstance actually changes your state of being. So you're thinking the same way and you're feeling the same way and your response to the environment is the same. We can guarantee that your life is going to stay the same because you're the same. And yes, that person, why are you unhappy? Why are you frustrated? Why are you sad? And they'll say this condition, this person is actually making me feel and think this way. Well, anything that makes us feel and think a certain way that we don't think we have any control over, for the most part, we're victims. So we're, as a species, become victimized by the conditions in our life, and it's the environment then that is controlling the way we feel and the way we think. So the idea is, if you can change the way you think and change the way you feel, could you begin to produce outcomes or effects in your life that cause you to believe that you're the creator of your life instead of the victim of your life?
If you keep thinking the same thoughts, if you keep making the same choices, you keep doing the same things, you keep creating the same experiences, you keep feeling the same emotions, I don't know, let's be conservative. You do that for 10 years. You would have to agree with me then that it would become more automatic, it would become more unconscious. Your personality creates your personal reality. That's it. That is it. And your personality is made of how you think, how you act, and how you feel. So keep thinking the same way, keep acting the same way, keep feeling the same way. Your personality is the same and your personal reality would be the same as well. So if you wanted to change your life, if you wanted to change your personal reality, you would have to change your personality. And then you'd have to start thinking about what you've been thinking about and decide if you really want to believe that any longer. And when does the story end? It's that moment that you become so conscious of that thought. You're so tired of it. You're so aware of it that you would never let it slip by your awareness ever again.
So I think there's 2 times the door to the subconscious mind opens up. When we wake up in the morning and we go to bed at night, and it's simple brain chemistry and simple physiology. We have a circadian rhythm. As soon as there's light, our body has been pretty much programmed that we begin to release serotonin and different chemicals that kind of wake us up. So our brain waves go from delta to theta to alpha to beta. And you kind of slide up this way, and then you're back to conscious awareness, local in space and time. When you go to bed at night, you go from beta to alpha to theta to delta, and you slide down. Now, if you're stressed, you can't stop thinking. You stay in beta. Your thinking actually is arousing the body because you're thinking about your problems. You can't slide down. Those 2 points in the day, when we wake up in the morning and go to bed at night, when alpha, or our analytical facilities are suppressed, we're in theta, we're in a hypnotic state. And the door between the conscious mind and the subconscious mind is wide open. And what separates the conscious mind from the subconscious mind is the analytical mind. So as you suppress analytical facilities, you can program anybody to do anything. Most people try to create a new personal reality as the same personality, and it doesn't work. We literally have to become someone else. In other words, thoughts are the language of the brain, and feelings are the language of the body. And how you think and how you feel creates a state of being. So most people have experiences in their life that brand them emotionally. They feel fear, they feel anger, they feel bitterness, they feel frustration, they feel insecurity, and those emotions then become part of their identity. So once they think certain thoughts that turn on certain circuits in their brain that are equal to their insecurity, and then they feel insecure. The moment they feel insecure, they think more insecure thoughts, which makes more chemicals for them to feel insecure. And the repetition of that cycle over time conditions the body to subconsciously become the mind of insecurity. So then the person says, I am insecure. And whenever you say, I am anything, you're commanding your mind and body towards a destiny.
Also, to make sure you're actually taking action after watching this video, I've designed a special free worksheet just for this video. The worksheet will highlight all of the lessons learned in this video, as well as pull out our 3 favorite learnings and quotes that will inspire you to actually do something. The worksheet will also give you space to write down what your key takeaways are and your specific plan of action to make sure you're getting results. If you want the worksheet designed specifically for this video, absolutely for free, there's a link in the description below. Go click on it and start building the momentum in your life and your business. I'll see you there.
If your brain is a record of the past, and you are living by the same emotions that have defined you for the last 10 years, and you keep thinking the same thoughts that make the same chemicals, and those same chemicals drive the same thoughts, then your body, as the unconscious mind, does not know the difference between an actual experience in your life that creates an emotion and an emotion that you're creating by thought alone. And so your body is believing it's in the same past experience 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, and your body is programmed into the past. And you can't create a new future holding on to the emotions of the past.
Nobody changes until they change their energy. When you change your energy, you change your life. It's the way it is. When you stop using your enemy to reaffirm your addiction to hatred, when you stop using your best friend to reaffirm your addiction to suffering, when you stop using your Facebook to reaffirm your addiction to insecurity, when you stop that whole process and you start going inward and you're no longer relying on those outer things to create those emotions, and you start creating those inner emotional states, you start changing your energy. Now, whatever is no longer a vibrational match between you and that past, present reality is going to fall away. They're just going to spiral out. You're no longer putting your attention on them. In other words, the stronger the emotion you feel with some problem in your life, the more you give it your attention. Where you place your attention is where you place your energy. You're giving your power away, your life force. Lower the volumes of that emotion, you take your attention off that person, you're calling energy back to you. And you're building your own electromagnetic field. We've seen the evidence of that in many events, because when people start overcoming themselves, the first day, not always, but the energy of the room will drop. Why? Because they're drawing from the field to build their own field. Now when they build their own field the next day and the fields start interfering with the people next to them, whoop, the energy in the room just keeps going up. So now there's no longer a vibrational match between you and your coworker. Be prepared, because that old known thing is going to fall away, because you're no longer emotionally and energetically connected to it. So then when you get in that state, it's not a time to try to put it back together, because at the same time these things are unraveling and they're moving towards chaos, and chaos is just unpredictable order. It's novelty, the newness of an experience that you can't predict is chaos. If you apply the formula, and all potentials in the quantum field exist as electromagnetic potentials. They are possibilities. When they begin to synchronize coherently, your brain and heart, you got a strong Wi-Fi signal, because now you're putting out a very laser coherent signal. When there's a synchronization between your energy and that potential that exists in the future, but it really exists in the present moment, because that's where they exist in the quantum. Now you start to see synchronicities in your life, and those are breadcrumbs from the field, like keep going, you're onto something.
We have to get into the operating system. We have to get into those programs and begin to reprogram that. And there's a way to do that, because the whole purpose of meditation is to get beyond the analytical mind. And what separates the conscious mind from the subconscious mind is the analytical mind. And the only way you're going to know how to do that is to learn how to regulate your brainwaves and begin to slow them down. So as you begin to slow down your brainwaves, you get beyond your analytical mind, and you're entering that operating system where all those programs exist. And 95% of who we are by the time we're 35 years old, a set of memorized behaviors, unconscious emotional reactions, unconscious beliefs, perceptions, hardwired attitudes that function automatically like a computer program. That means that 95% of the time people are unconscious how they're being. And so becoming conscious of that, overcoming, even if you just say every day I'm going to overcome my fear, every day I'm going to overcome my depression, every day I'm going to feel better than yesterday. That act of doing that you're informing the system, you're putting new information into your body that's causing your body maybe slowly every day to begin to change. And of course some days are easier than others, but we naturally know what to do when we're challenged to that measure.
The greatest relationship that you could ever have is with yourself. Taking time to be in the presence of yourself and ask yourself important questions like, are you happy? Who am I? And instead of getting up and getting on your cell phone and getting distracted, sit with your triple filtered water or a glass of wine or whatever you're into. The question without being distracted, the contemplation process is the building process neurologically. And for me, I'm a guy who loves God. I'm a guy who loves the divine. I'm the guy who loves mystery. I'm the guy who just never stops dovetailing information. That's just me. And I never really planned on doing any of this. My theories on life is make it up as you go along and take the value and run. And what the bleep became a sensation. And all of a sudden, I went from a normal guy to being a rock star. And I was traveling around the world and doing conferences all over the place. I reached this point where I realized that I wasn't living the work. And that really bothered me. I was disturbed by that. I was really uncomfortable. And when you get uncomfortable and nothing's making that discomfort go away, it's time to evolve. It's time to make a different choice. And I clearly heard in my head during one meditation, stop making
making the same choices and pause. I didn't know what that meant, except that I knew that I was relying on all of this external stimulation to build an identity that I really wasn't. And then I had to show up for people and look a certain way and act a certain way, and that wasn't me. And it got disturbing for me. And I didn't make time for myself and make time to be the example. I mean, my motive is always be the example of everything that I teach. I shouldn't be leading in my clinic if I don't live those principles myself, if I don't live my life that way.
I believe that your personality creates your personal reality. And in order to change your personal reality, your life, it means then that on some level we have to change, because nothing changes in our life unless we change. So if people understand that 90% of the thoughts that they think every day are the same thoughts as the day before, the same thoughts always lead to the same choices, the same choices always lead to the same behaviors, the same behaviors create the same experiences, and the same experiences produce the very same feelings and emotions, and those same emotions influence our very same thoughts, and our biology, our neurocircuitry, our neurochemistry, our hormones, our gene expression stays the same because we're the same. But the repetition of firing and wiring the same circuits in our brain in the same way causes us to create a very finite set of circuitry that becomes our identity and our personality. And nerve cells that fire together wire together, which means you keep doing it, it gets easier for them to fire and they run more automatically.
I have a couple theories about relationships that I think are really important, and I use the same exact principles with my life. First of all, I will never work in a relationship, and I don't think anybody should work in a relationship. I think if you're working in a relationship, something is not clicking, something is not right. But if you bring your best, and the person that you're with brings their best, and you celebrate your life together, then there's constructive interference, there's growth, there's energy. If you're not at your best and you show up, more than likely you're going to pick someone or something apart. And it's better that you remove yourself for a period of time and get back into your heart and present yourself at your best. And so if you're not there and you need a mirror or a reflection, then it's good to ask, am I missing something? Am I not seeing myself in some way? And then there's a healthy conversation when you invite it. But if you're not invited to contribute your opinion, then it's better off that you don't. So people always say, I want a loving relationship, but what they really want is happiness, really. I assert that if you're not in the present moment, you're running a program. And paying attention is being present, and it's a skill just like anything else. The more you practice it, the better you get at it. And you know when someone's present with you in your life because they're paying attention to you. And you know when they're not present with you because they're not paying attention to you. Where you place your attention is where you place your energy. So if you have all of your attention in the present moment, you're conserving a lot of energy to create with. If I'm talking to you and you're thinking about where you're gonna go for lunch and who you're gonna go with and how you're gonna get there, and I'm talking to you, you left the present moment and your attention went to some future. And your energy will go down and you won't be able to comprehend what I said. If you start thinking about what you should have said at the staff meeting 3 days ago, and I'm talking to you and your mind is back in the past, you're siphoning energy out of the present moment into the past. So people are constantly siphoning their energy into a familiar past or a predictable future because that's where their attention is. And the stronger the emotions that we feel to certain problems and conditions in our life, the more we pay attention to them. So we give our power away to our ex, we give our power away to that big problem, and that's creative energy that we should be able to use to create a new future.
You know, your personality creates your personal reality. That's it. And your personality is made up of how you think, how you act, and how you feel. So if you keep thinking the same way, you keep acting the same way, you keep feeling the same way, everything stays the same in your life because nothing changes in your life until you change, right? So turns out if you keep thinking the same way, making the same choices, doing the same things, creating the same experiences, and feeling the same emotions, or responding to your life in the exact same way, you keep doing that, your biology tends to get more rigid. We fire and wire the same circuits, we hardwire our brain, and it only takes a small stimulation or a small thought or a response to someone or something, and like a sequence of thoughts, it just turns on automatically.
Most people, number one, they get up in the morning and the first thing they do is they think about the problems in their life. And those problems are memories from the past. So the moment they think about the problems, they're thinking in the past, right? Every one of those problems has an emotion attached to them, so they start feeling unhappy or unworthy or whatever. And how you think and how you feel is your state of being. So most people's entire state of being is in the past when they start the day. So if in the familiar past, they're going to live in a predictable future, right? So they get up and they check their cell phone, they check their text, their WhatsApp, their Facebook, they post something on Facebook, they tweet, they Twitter, they check the news, then they go to the bathroom, get a cup of coffee, take a shower, get dressed, check more emails, drive to work the same way, do the same thing. So they're in a program. They've actually lost their free will to the program.
Wow.
So if you start your day, and you start your day with this simple question, what is the greatest ideal of myself that I can be today? You ask yourself that question. Now listen, your body's gonna go like, well, we gotta get a cup of coffee, and you gotta
I'm
tired,
yeah.
And you gotta go, body, you're not the mind, I'm the mind right now. You're gonna sit here, I'm gonna feed you, you're gonna get your coffee, you're gonna do all those things, but right now, this is my time. You're gonna obey me, right? So now, the body's no longer the mind, you're the mind. And so when it wants to get up and you become aware of it, and return back to the present moment, every time you do, that's a victory. Wow. And you're changing some aspect of yourself. So then, ask yourself, I do this all the time, write down 4 thoughts that you're gonna stay conscious of the whole day. I can't, it's too hard. You'd be surprised the moment you become conscious of what those thoughts are, how unconscious you've been to them all day, right. For weeks on end. Write down what you speak, how you speak, 4 things you want to change, how you act. How do you act? Do you complain? Do you blame? Do you make excuses? Do you feel sorry for yourself? That's a victim consciousness. What emotions do you live by? Is it possible that you're so used to living by guilt you don't even know it's guilt, it just feels like you? Do you allow your energy to drop? Become conscious of those states of mind and body and review them and say, this is the old self. Then say, what thoughts do I want to fire and wire in my brain? And start firing and wiring and start feeling it. What behaviors will I demonstrate today? What choices will I make? One day, one lifetime. Just like you did, rehearse them. Rehearse the whole entire thing. Yeah. Begin to install the neurological hardware in your brain. And if you keep installing it, the hardware is going to become a software program, and you're going to start thinking and acting that way. And then here's the tough part. Can you teach your body emotionally what your future is going to feel like before it's made manifest? And don't get up until you feel that way.
Your personality creates your personal reality. That's it. And your personality is made up of how you think, how you act, and how you feel. So the present personality who's listening to this podcast has created the present personal reality called their life. Which means then if you want to change your life, you want to create a new personal reality, you're going to have to change your personality. You're going to have to change because nothing changes in your life until you change. So what is the understanding of change? So we've spent over 10 years studying a way to explain what change is. Because if you think 60 to 70,000 thoughts or however many thoughts in one day, and 90% of those thoughts are the same thoughts as the day before, you're in trouble. Because the same thoughts will lead to the same choices will lead to the same behaviors create the same experiences, and the same experiences produce those very same emotions, and those same emotions influence our same thoughts and our biology, our neurocircuitry, our neurochemistry, our hormones, our gene expression. Everything stays the same because we're the same. So it has traditionally taken crisis or trauma or loss for someone to make up their mind to change. So the moment we decide to change, okay, I want to create a new personal reality, a new life, I got to change my personality. Well, this concept called metacognition, we got 4-brain function, the seat of our conscience, our frontal lobe, allows us to think about what we're thinking about, to notice how we're behaving, and to become aware of how we're feeling. And the repetition of thinking, acting, and feeling in the same way causes our brain to become hardwired into very specific neural patterns, right? So that firing and wiring over time happens so automatically that we're unconscious of our conscious self. So the moment we become conscious of those thoughts, the moment we become aware of those behaviors, the moment we notice those feelings, we're no longer the program. In fact, we're the consciousness observing the program, and that's the first step to change.
It's so important for people to remember that they're the creators of their lives instead of the victim of their life. The victim is saying, I'm feeling this way because that person or that circumstance, or I don't have any money, is causing me to feel this way. That's my relationship with money. What that really means is I'm using my lack to reaffirm my dependency, my addiction, my conditioning. That's my relationship with money, is that I put my attention on money because I don't have it. Their relationship with money is, of course, built on lack. And so when they don't have it, they feel bad. And what they're really saying is my outer environment, my reality is actually controlling the way I feel and the way I think. So Louis, why are you in a good mood today? Things are going good. Why are you in a bad mood? Things are going bad today. So this unconscious program of victimization is saying that we're allowing our environment to influence the way we feel and the way we think. Isn't that what victimization is? And the stronger the emotion we have to our lack, the more we put our attention on the fact that we don't have it, right? Yeah. So then the person has forgotten that they're creating reality because what they're creating is lack. and they're creating more of it, and they try harder and they force harder. So the experiment then is, let's try it another way. Let's create from the field instead of from matter. Relax in the heart, and energy moves right into the brain. We've measured this 1,000 times, and all of a sudden the person moves into these beautiful, elegant brainwave states where they're super creative, right? The longer you're conscious of that energy, the more you draw that future to you. When the brain starts functioning in a level of order or coherence, more neurons are recruited and bigger communities, and that kind of holism that's created is so important. The other thing we realize is that when people really heal their heart, they heal their mind. Like I have no doubt about that. You cannot do one without the other. And when there's enough energy in the heart, and we've seen this, we've got the technology to see that when the heart starts working, when people start doing it properly, there's this low frequency in the heart that starts to rise. It's only indigenous to the heart because they have their attention on it. Where you place your attention is where you place your energy. So they're filling the gas tank up, and when it gets to a certain point, here comes the parasympathetic nervous system saying, get out of the stress response, get relaxed, and then all of a sudden you think that would be over. But it's not. Then the parasympathetic nervous system drops down and the sympathetic nervous system comes up. And when the sympathetic nervous system comes up, now the person's relaxed and awake. Like they're really relaxed in their heart and they're really awake in their brain. That state is so much better than being stressed out and unconscious and in a program, right? So turns out when you get to that state, when the heart starts informing the brain, it resets the baseline for the trauma that's stored in the brain, in the amygdala. It's informing the brain that the event is over. Because the emotion that they're feeling is dragging the body out of the past, right to the present. And when they feel that glory, that really rich feeling where it's like, oh my God, this is something I haven't felt since I was 9 years old or 6 years old. And it's this familiar feeling in their heart, the words many people use, blows wide open. When they look back at their past, their trauma, the loss, the betrayal, the abuse, sexually, physically, emotionally, so many times the person doesn't want to change one thing.
Why is that?
Because it brought them to this moment. And now the moment is okay, and all of that's okay because I'm okay. And they look back at their betrayers and their abusers, and they have nothing but compassion. They see the whole thing. They're seeing their past from a greater level of consciousness, right? So now that it resets the baseline, and the event is over. And there goes the endometriosis. There goes the suicidal tendencies. There goes the rashes. There goes the gum disease, whatever it is. Just the body gets an upgrade. It's no longer believing it's in the same trauma 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, because they're living unconsciously or subconsciously in that emotional program, right? So then what happens to that person? They belong to the future now. They no longer belong to the past. And so it's almost like they don't even have to do much now. It's almost like they're happy for no reason. And they're okay with themselves.
Yes.
And when you're okay with yourself, you're okay with everybody. That's just the way it is. If you're living in stress and you're living in survival and that system is switched on, then everything will be a threat. Everything will be a danger. Everything will be a reason to rush, to be impatient, to be frustrated, to be judgmental, because that's the consciousness, that's the emotion we're living by. So now you have a problem with a coworker, you have a problem with your partner, whatever it is that you used as an example, and you have to give a presentation. Now you really have one of two choices: either be victimized by those conditions in your life and you stay in that emotional state, and I'll say to you, Jay, why are you that way? Well, I'm this way because of this person, this circumstance. That person or circumstance is controlling the way I feel and the way I think. Anything that controls the way I feel and the way I think, I'm victim to, right? Okay. Or I actually can be a creator now. Okay. So when it's the hardest, it matters the most. Okay. So there's going to be a story, a valid story that's going to go along with those emotions that you're going to have to give up, that you can address at another time from a different state. If you're altered in that state and you say something, you do something, you write the email, you send the text, you'll always regret it. You'll always say, I should have never said that. I should have never done that. We got to learn that we're in an altered state at that time. So there's only one of two choices. You either stay there the whole day and tell everybody that story, or you say, okay, let me take a moment.
remember that this is the experiment called life. Okay, let me practice getting relaxed in my heart. Let me slow the animal down. Let me practice that. Let's take a few minutes. Now, let me breathe. Let me get my state back. Let me change everything. Okay, let me remember who I am, who I want to be when I open my eyes, and let me practice that again. Now, even if you had to do that 10 times in one day, I would say it was a day worth living. I would say it was a day worth living. And when we do walking meditations, in our retreats, we're doing walking meditations so you can practice doing it with your eyes open.
Yes.
Like if you're going to be relaxed in your heart and awake in your brain, and you can do it with your eyes closed, okay, let's take it out for a test drive.
Yeah.
Let me open my eyes. Let me pay a little bit more attention to my inner world. Let me practice feeling this feeling. Let me practice feeling this way, and let my brain do what it does. Let me let me change my physiology. Let me change my state. Let me walk as the healed person. Let me walk as the abundant person. Let me walk as if my prayers are answered. Let me walk in this state. If I keep practicing that over and over, it's going to become a habit, right?
Yeah.
And so we hit it as many ways as we can. We have at least 7 or 8 different breaths that we do because we see how they all work in the brain. We have all kinds of meditations. We have sitting meditations. We have standing and walking meditations. We have laying down meditations because we want you to be able to do it with your eyes open, with your eyes closed, standing, walking, any way you can so that you don't default and return back to that person. Now, if you do default, you didn't fail. That's a program. You just went unconscious. And how many times do we have to forget until we stop forgetting and start remembering? That's the moment of change. No one cares how many times you fell off the bicycle. If you ride the bicycle now, you ride the bike. So it's the constant process every single day. And I think that sometimes we look for evidence in our life and it hasn't happened. And I think it's so important that we still show up.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's where you're changing the most. And when you get to that point where you could care less if it happens or not, because you feel so happy, so grateful for who you are, get ready because your life is going to begin to change in magical ways.
Most of us tell the story of our past in a negative sense on how it's held us back. Millions of times over our life, as opposed to the story of the future of what we want to create or who we want to become.
Yeah. Listen, again, you tell that story, and the latest research on memory says that memory is creative, that in fact, 50% of that story you embellish. People make up that story. Let me tell you why they make up that story. Because they excuse themselves for the fact that they haven't been able to change since that event. They'll have to make it sound worse than it really was.
To make it harder to grow and change.
So that they can reaffirm their limited sense of their inability to change. So then that story becomes more and more of a story, and it's less of the truth, because you got to work yourself up into a state. There were lions and tigers, and there was, there were helicopters,
snowstorms, and
everybody was firing bullets, worse than you could possibly imagine. And then you got to feel that emotion, right? And then you look at, oh yeah, it must have been really bad. Now that's your identity now. That's your identity.
And
so
the more you hold on to that identity of the past, the harder it is to become who you want to be in the future.
Well, here's to answer the other part of your question when we started talking. How do you get that person out of their past?
Yeah.
Well, we need a week. It's not going to happen.
You mean it doesn't happen overnight?
No, I want them to come right up against their fear. I want them to come right up against their doubt. I want them to come up against the point where they're going to give up and quit. And they're going to sit there and nobody else is giving up and quitting. And they're going to go all in more, and they're going to start believing there's something on the other side of that emotion. They're going to believe that there's something past the story of their past because they're stretching themselves out of the known. And it takes a tremendous amount of awareness, repetition, information, model building, sharing, understanding, experiencing to finally have a person get to the point where they just let go. And when they do, the body's liberated from the past, and there's a release of energy. And we now know that there's a formula to teach people how to do that. In fact, we're getting so good at it that the first 2 days, a day and a half sometimes, 1 day in certain groups of a week-long event is about retiring that past, finishing it. This is when the story ends. This is when they get over it. Now, the next 5 days, the person's ready to create a new future. And they're not going to have a problem teaching their body what it feels like to be in love with life, to feel like all their needs are met, that they're free. They are going to fall in love with it, and they are going to begin to signal new genes. They're going to begin to change their brain circuitry, their brain chemistry, their immune system, their gene expression, the telomeres. It's all going to happen. They're more of that future self, and they're headed to a future. Now, here's the deal, though. You got to be able to sustain that state when you return back to your life. That's the name of the game. You got to be able to, you got to bring the game into your life now, and no person, no circumstance, no condition in your life would cause you to feel the old way again. Because the moment you started feeling victimized, the moment you started feeling angry, you just returned to the old self. You disconnected from the energy of your future, and you're back to the energy of your past.
Because you made it this far in the video, I want to celebrate you. Most people start and don't finish. Most people never actually follow through. Most people say they want something, but they don't ever do the work to actually get it. But you're different. You are special. Believe Nation, you made it here all the way to the end, and I love you. So as a special celebration, if you put a hashtag believe down in the comments below on this video, I will showcase you and celebrate you somewhere on the screen in a future video, because you are awesome.
To learn how to manifest anything you want, check the video right there next to me. I think you'll love it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.
This is the hard part for most people. Can you teach your body emotionally what the future will feel like before it happens? That means you're not waiting for your wealth to feel abundant. You're not waiting for your success to feel empowered. You're not waiting for your new relationship